2.2 dividing fractions. Today, to go along with our GVC, that I can divide fractions and apply them to real world situations. Okay, that's our goal for the end of today. Yesterday we talked about, more importantly, the why. Okay, why we get an answer when we divide by a fraction, and we used pictures to help us to illustrate or demonstrate why we get the answers that we get when we divide by a fraction. So now we're going to go more to talk about the vocabulary and the steps that we need to take in order to actually solve a division problem using fractions. So let's first talk about some important things with fractions. Again, to review, divisor means the number by which another number is being divisor, the number by which another number is being divided. Okay, the number by which another number is being divided. Okay, the dividend is the number that is being divided into parts. So if we had an example in a fraction form, okay, in fraction form, the divisor would be the same thing as our denominator. The dividend, the number that is being divided into parts, that's on top, dividend. So it's the same thing as our numerator and denominator. Okay, so I hope that you understand that those two things are the same. They are one and the same. Our dividend is our numerator and our divisor is our denominator. The dividend is the number by which another number is being divided, and the dividend is the number that is being divided into parts. Okay, so the quotient. The quotient is the answer to a division problem. Okay, we already know all about that. So when we're dividing by a fraction, the quotient is the outcome that we get from our division problem. Let's talk about this word reciprocal, which is a new word. A reciprocal of two rational numbers whose answer is 1, also referred to as a multiplicative inverse. Well, what does that mean? Okay, two rational numbers whose answer is 1, also referred to as a multiplicative inverse. So if I have the fraction 2 over 1, and if I multiply that by 1 over 2, my outcome is going to be 1. Because I'm going to get 2 times 1 is 2, and 1 times 2 is 2, which is equivalent to 2 over 2, which is 1. So when I'm talking about the reciprocal, what we're talking about is flipping a fraction over and multiplying it by its multiplicative inverse, or its opposite. Okay, so we're going to use reciprocals when we divide fractions. We haven't used that word before, but you've already done it. Okay, whenever we flip a fraction over and multiply, you are multiplying it by its multiplicative inverse, which means it's flipped over, the reciprocal. So when we are dividing fractions, if you want to divide, okay, what does our song say? If you want to divide, look on the right side. Flip that fraction over and then multiply. Okay, so if we want to divide, look on the right side. Okay, then step number 2 is we are going to flip that fraction over before we actually multiply. Okay, we know that we need to check to see if we can cross simplify and make our math a little bit easier, and then we will multiply. Okay, if you want to divide, look on the right side. Flip that fraction over and then multiply. So let's practice a couple of them together. So if we have 3/4 divided by 1/2, I'm going to do 3 over 4, and I'm going to multiply it by its reciprocal. Okay, I'm going to flip the second fraction over and multiply it by 2 over 1. Because I changed the sign, instead of dividing, I'm multiplying, so I have to flip the fraction over. So now we have 3 times 2 and 4 times 1, but I need to see if I can cross simplify. Well, we know that 1 and 3 do not have any common factors other than 1, so that doesn't help us. We need to look at the 4 and the 2 and say, do they have a common factor? Yes. Okay, we know that 2 goes into both of those. 2 goes into 2 once, and it goes into 4 twice. So now we're going to multiply straight across. 3 times 1 equals 3, and 2 times 1 equals 2. Well, now we know that we have an improper fraction because we have a number on top. Our numerator is bigger than our denominator, so we need to turn that into a mixed number. 2 goes into 3 one time, and we have 1 left over out of 2. So my answer is 1 and 1/2. Let's try one more. If we have 1/3 divided by 1/4, I need to look on the right side, flip the fraction over, and then multiply. So I'm going to take 1/3 times 4 over 1, which is 4 over 1 is the multiplicative inverse, or the reciprocal, of 1/4. Okay, now I'm going to check and see if I can cross simplify. 1 and 1 will not change. 3 and 4 do not have a common factor, so I cannot change any of those. Multiply straight across and we get 4 over 3, which is the same thing as 1 and 1/3. Okay, so now I would like you to pause and try the last two on your own. Okay, don't forget, we are looking on the right side, flip the fraction over, multiply by its reciprocal or multiplicative inverse. Okay, and before you multiply, you might check to see if you can cross simplify. If you can't, then you multiply straight across, and then you just have to, at the end, determine if you can turn it back into a mixed number. Okay, when you're finished, come and check with me and then grab your assignment.